It's a wild thing to see. Someone who is absolutely brilliant, just at the very top of their game, and then they completely fail at something that should be, well, simple for them. Today, we're going to dig into this really fascinating paradox about a student who was, on paper, a certified genius, but drew a complete blank when it mattered the most. And it all starts with a number. This was his score, a staggering 9.2 CGPA. Now, for anyone who's been through the university system, you know this number it's just exceptional. It screams discipline, intelligence, and just countless hours of hard work. And look, this wasn't from just any university. We're talking about one of the most competitive, top-tier institutions in the country. A 9.2 from a place like this, that's supposed to be your golden ticket. It's supposed to be proof that you are an absolute master of your subject. Which brings us right to the heart of the puzzle. During a super high-stakes interview, he gets asked a pretty fundamental question from his own field, and nothing. He just drew a blank. Now, the easy answer is, oh, he was just nervous, but that's not the real story here. Not even close. This moment actually reveals something way deeper about how we learn things in the first place. Okay, so to really get what happened, we need to look at two totally different ways of learning. The first type, well, it explains our student perfectly. We're going to call this person the performer, a true master of the academic game. The key thing to understand about the performer is their goal. They are incredibly smart, they're hardworking for sure, but all of that energy is pointed at one single thing, getting the highest possible score. They don't just play the academic game, they've figured out how to win it. You see, for the performer, learning is basically a transaction. That high grade isn't the final destination. It's just a key. It's the tool you use to unlock that next door, Whether it's a better job, getting into a master's program, or landing some prestigious position. The knowledge itself is really just a means to an end. And this right here is the core of their entire method. Performers don't actually own the knowledge. They just rent it. They cram everything they need for the exam, and the second that test is over, that information gets mentally returned. Its job is done, so it's no longer needed. Now let's put the performer side by side with our second type of person, the devotee. This person has a completely different relationship with learning. For the devotee, the subject isn't some game to be won. It's a whole world to get lost in. So, the devotee, they might not have that flawless report card. And you know why? Because they're too busy getting their hands dirty, going down all these interesting rabbit holes, and just falling in love with the subject for its own sake, not for the grade it's going to get them. Their whole approach is active. It's immersive. They're not the ones just memorizing formulas about electrical circuits. They're in the garage taking apart an old radio to see how it works. They don't just learn about gravity from a textbook, they feel it when they launch a rocket they built with their own hands. So, if the performer rents knowledge, the devotee owns it. It's not some temporary thing, it gets woven into the fabric of who they are. They don't just study a subject, they live with it. It becomes this permanent part of their personal library, full of their own little notes and highlights. The devotee's whole mindset is really captured by this idea. I don't know music, music knows me. See, for them, learning isn't a transaction, it's a relationship. The knowledge becomes so deep, so embedded, that it feels less like something they learned and more like a part of who they've always been. Okay, so we have our two people, the performer and the devotee. And now that we have this framework, we can finally go back to that high-stakes interview room and understand exactly why our 9.2 CGPA genius just failed. And here it is, laid out side by side. The performer's goal, the highest score. The method, a transaction. The result, rented knowledge. The devotee's goal is deep understanding through a relationship which results in owned knowledge. I mean, the difference is just night and day. So the really crucial thing to get is the performer's cycle. They study for one thing, the test. Then they absolutely ace it, proving they've mastered the test. But then, because that knowledge has served its one and only purpose, it's mentally returned. So when an unexpected recall question comes up years later, the file's empty. It's just gone. And that is exactly what happened in that interview. He was asked a question about a concept he had rented for an exam years ago. The knowledge wasn't in his heart, so it wasn't in his head when he needed the most. He totally mastered the game, but he never really mastered the subject. So you see, this story isn't really about one student's bad interview. It's the perfect illustration of a much deeper truth about learning itself, a truth that all comes down to the huge difference between renting knowledge and truly owning it. And this is really the big takeaway. You can't just conquer knowledge with a high IQ or by being the best test taker in the room. Real, lasting knowledge, that's something you earn. It's the reward you get for genuine curiosity and a real passion for understanding something. I love this metaphor. Think about it. Knowledge is like a fire. If you only light it to get you through a single cold night, like, say, an exam, it does its job, and then it burns out. That's rented knowledge. It's just temporary warmth. But if you're constantly tending to that fire, feeding it with curiosity and passion, it doesn't just burn out. It becomes a permanent hearth inside of you. It becomes a part of who you are. That is owned knowledge. It gives you warmth and light that lasts. So, this all leaves us with one final question to think about. When you approach learning something new, whether it's in your career or just in your life, which one are you? Are you just renting knowledge to get to that next level? Or are you building a fire that's going to stay with you for good?